Welcome to the Hindu Parenting Podcast. As we pointed out in the previous episode, ours is a celebratory culture. Almost every day in our calendar is filled with a celebration of nature or episodes from our rich Itihasas and Puranas. Our ways of celebration are equally rich and diverse. Today, we will be talking about the festival of Mahashivaratri. So, when does Shivaratri occur according to the Indian calendar, traditionally known as the Panchangam? The 14th day or Chaturdashi of Krishna Paksha, just before the new moon, marks Shivaratri every month, making it 12 Shivaratris in all. But the Shivaratri that falls on Krishna Paksha Chaturdashi in the month of Magha or Phalgun, depending on the specific Panchang, is called the Mahashivaratri. To discuss this festival, we have Sheela, a Shiva Bhakta and a working mother. Shalini and I will be talking to her about the festival and how she celebrates it as a person from the Lingayat community. Namaskara and welcome, Sheela.
Namaskara, Rekha, Shalini. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
It's a pleasure to have you on our podcast. Shall we dive right in?
Sure.
First, can you help us understand the significance of the festival and what are the stories behind Shivaratri?
Sure. As we all know, the Shivaratri is celebrated every month, or there is a Shivaratri every month. A day before the Amavasya is considered Shivaratri every month. But in Magha Masa, we celebrate Mahashivaratri. It is believed that when the Samudra Mantana happened, there was Amrita and Visha that came out of the Samudra Mantana after the churning of the sea. So when the poison had generated, it caused a lot of problems even to the god. So Shiva offered to consume this haalaahala is what they call it. So it so happened that when he consumed it,
What is
Parvati came
called
in hell.
haalaahala? Sorry, what is called haalaahala?
The poison or visha, what we say, vish, yeah,
Okay,
that is called haalaahala.
okay,
So
okay.
Amrita and haalaahala is what it's called. When Shiva, as who is the Lord of the world, is what we call Jagadoddaraka. So for the Uddhara of this Prithvi or this who Sampurna Loka, he came forward and said that he would consume that and dissolve that so it doesn't affect the whole world. So when he consumes this haalaahala, when it's flowing down his throat, Parvati comes and holds his throat, so it doesn't enter his body system. So that's how his throat has turned blue. So if you see the picture of Lord Shiva, it is always shown that his neck is blue in color. That's the reason he's also got the name Nilakanta. So we can relate this to a story like how the villagers, if a person is bit by a poisonous snake, he is kept awake for 24 hours. So that is what happened when Shiva consumed the haalaahala. All the deva and devathas and the devis kept him awake by singing and dancing and performing different activities which kept Lord Shiva awake. So that is a reason that we perform pujas on Shivaratri. So in the same way, they did not eat anything. It's also like you can think this way, like if the head of the family, okay, is unwell, can we eat anything? Right? We won't be in a mood to eat because he's unwell. So that was one of the reasons they did upavasa. Upavasa also has an explanation. The word upavasa is it's said that at the threshold of God. Upavasa means living, right? So at the footsteps or at the threshold of God's presence is what is upavasa, they say. So, and that was one of the reason why they do upavasa and why they do jagarani. They stay awake with the Lord to help him overcome this reaction of the poison, okay, by keeping him awake. Because once a person sleep, it may damage the whole system. And that was one of the reason why they keep the person who consumes or who has been bit by a snake awake for 24 hours.
I think you should come again on that upavasa bit, because vasa, as you said, that's understood that, you're talking
Yeah.
about the abode of somebody,
Hmm.
or where
Hmm.
somebody stays. What does upa
Hmm.
mean?
Upa means near and vasa means to stay.
Okay, you're staying near the god who has
Hmm.
consumed this haalaahala, and you are
Hmm.
keeping vigil for that person with him, right?
Along with him, yeah, you can't, because upavasa is called for any fasting is called upavasa. So you're
The
close to God. It means that you're close
Hmm.
to God.
Hmm.
It
Okay.
and so the
so
purpose of fasting is to be close to God, not just to simply abstain from food and
Correct.
yeah.
do other. The whole purpose behind any kind of fasting, upavasa that we observe for many of our rituals and festivals is to
Mhm.
not eat and thereby stay close to God, thinking of Devi or Devata,
Yeah.
whichever. Okay.
And this
Right.
is very
Because
interesting. What we use the term upavasa is to denote fasting, but the word
hmm,
itself does not
as
have that
a
meaning at all, actually.
hmm,
I think it's
yeah.
an interesting word. It just occurred to me when you said it.
Yeah, I'm thinking it it may have something to do with the proliferation of two meanings. Sanskrit is a language that has different meanings for every word. So when you
Yeah, that is
say,
correct.
yeah, so in some way, I think what we are referring to by using the word upavasa must be its underlying meaning, not the on the surface meaning of just staying away from food, but the underlying reason for it. So that has
Mm.
come into usage, I guess.
Mm.
Yeah, it's I would like to add something to this is when you are doing something that you want to achieve or something that you like to do or enjoy doing it, you're focused on it. When you're focused on something, imagine a child that likes to play, okay, doesn't think of food or anything, who's enjoying doing the whole act of playing, will not think of food or anything to drink. The game is
That is a
what is the focus.
very interesting point, that, because when all focus is on some activity, you really are not concerned about food, drink, anything.
Yes,
You're
right.
concerned only about what you're doing. So I think that's a great point.
Especially all of us definitely know how hard it is to drag a screaming child away from play to eat.
Correct.
It's something
Correct.
that we've all.
That's absolutely true. Yeah.
So all of us become children when it is the creator or the supreme energy. So
That's a very nice way to put it. Yeah. So, Sheila, Shiva is worshipped in many forms. Okay, I mean, you see a picture of Shiva on his Vahana, which is Nandi. Sometimes you just see a picture of Shiva with Parvati and their children. But the most common one is, the form in which he is worshipped as a linga. So,
mhm.
why do you think that Shiva is represented as a linga?
Okay. Um, like uh, like we all know, energy does not have a shape. So Shiva himself has no shape, is what they say.
Uh,
Yeah,
I mean, you
linga
can always,
also actually means just a representation. No, in Sanskrit,
yes, it's
linga,
a
Hmm.
sign.
yeah, linga is a sign.
Yeah, the representation of Shiva as a linga is the word, Sanskrit word for a sign. So Shiva is represented as a linga. And a linga is a column of light with no beginning and no end. And when you worship Shiva as a linga, it just you worship him as this unending, infinite source of light and fire. It's supposed to be a column of fire with no beginning and end. And interestingly, the jyotirlingas are well known to all practitioners of Hinduism. So the jyotirlingas are supposed to be manifestations of this column or pillar of light. It's also called a thumb. So the manifestation of in 12 different locations across India is the story behind the 12 jyotirlingas. And some of the jyotirlingas where Bhagavan is represented as a column of light is places like Kedarnath, Mahakal temple in Ujjain.
There is Trambakeshwar in Maharashtra, also Bhima Shankar in
Bhima
Maharashtra
Shankar.
too.
I think
then I think
Somnath.
Somnath is also one of the Jyotirlingas, right?
And they say that these are all Swayambhu forms of Bhagavan, because the Jyotirlingas are Swayambhus, which means that they have manifested by themselves without anybody there and installing. So that is the significance of the 12 Jyotirlingas.
So, Sheela, there is, Rekha has been saying that, it's a column of light, fire. Actually, Shiva is always represented in this fiery form, or there's always a kind of very intense energy associated with him, Why is that?
Okay. Yes, as I mentioned in the beginning, Jagadodharaka. So he is believed to take away all the negatives from the creatures of his own creation, right? So he has created this world, is what we believe. So in this world, whatever negatives that are there is believed, and that's the reason we go to any temple, okay, to gain energy from there. We don't go there to ask for something. We just try to, it's like we are recharging our energies. Okay. So, and it is always, we always talk about, every time when we talk, we always say, think positive, be positive. Okay. So this is, it is believed that Ishvara or Jagadishvara or Jagadodharaka draws all the negatives. So when he's taking all the negatives, like how he consumed the haalaahala, he's considered to be, his system is, they say that he's very hot. So any Shaivite, if you ask them, he is believed to be abhisheka priya, is what they say. If you go to any Shiva temple, you will see that there are drops of water falling on the shivalinga that is there in the sanctum. It is said that the shivalinga is always needs to be cooled down, like as you said, agni or fire that he's holding in his system has to always be like, you have to cool it. So, and that's one of the reason why this water drops keep falling on the Shivalinga. And even if you connect that to your family as such, it is believed that Ishanya Mule is what they say in Vastu. In a house where the north and east coincide is called the Ishanya corner. Okay. So in that corner, you, even now in certain houses, they follow this ritual of or custom of keeping a vessel, a copper or any vessel that has water in it. So it is believed that when you keep this water, which has to be changed every day, and the vessel has to be clean, and you refill the water, this signifies that like every house has a owner. So to keep them calm, or the whole setup of the house to be calm, it is believed that when you keep water there, it keeps the whole house in a positive energy or
So
positive environment.
that vessel is supposed to absorb all the negativities that arise in that space and imparts the positivity, absorbing and
Yeah,
giving out that cooling
yes,
thing. Okay.
because that corner is believed that is where Shiva is
Residing.
residing, and that
Okay.
is one of the reasons they, especially that corner. If any house has that corner, it is good to make use of that space to keep at least a small vessel of water.
Okay. So
So
what are the abhishekams that Shiva basically likes?
Shiva is, as I mentioned, is Abhisheka Priya. And like how they say Vishnu is Alankara Priya. So Shiva
Ah,
is Abhisheka Priya. And when
okay.
you can just do Abhisheka with water,
Okay.
nothing else can, the least could be water. Otherwise,
Okay.
just Panchamrita Abhisheka is what they do normally. Okay. Or
Okay.
as we all know, he puts vibhuti. Vibhuti is the ashes, right? Right.
Okay.
So since he is fond of vibhuti, so vibhuti is another thing. But otherwise, just by water. Sometimes
Mm,
me being a Lingayat, there were times when I used to not get flowers when I used to live in certain places. Even now, when I do puja, I only since we have to do our the linga that we wear puja every day. It is said that we have to do thrice a day, but with all the lifestyles that we have, I ensure that at least once in the morning,
mm,
soon after my
mm-hmm.
bath, I do the puja. I just apply vibhuti and the sandal paste, and I just pour a little bit of water, and that is what is sufficient to keep him happy.
It's very interesting. All the things that you mentioned, uh, is they're all coolants also. Water is a
Mm,
coolant, vibhuti is a
yes.
coolant,
Mm,
sandalwood paste is a coolant, panchamrita is
yeah.
a coolant. So,
Mm,
I mean, it's very consistent. Okay, if they say that he absorbs all the negative energies and so gets heated up and needs to be cooled. All the things that you're using to do abhisheka with for him are also coolants. So
yeah.
there is really no inconsistency in our practices. It's really beautiful to see this.
Just as Sheela pointed out, Abhisheka Priya and Alankara Priya. So, what are these two? Bhagwan Shiva is known as Abhisheka Priya, and Vishnu, any avatar of Vishnu, is supposed to like decoration, flowers, all the beautiful and aesthetic things. Whereas
Mm,
Shiva is more from an ascetic tradition. So,
mm.
Shalini, do you remember the discussion we were having when we discussed what it means to be a Hindu and
Yeah,
choosing one's devata?
Ishta Devata.
So,
Yes, absolutely.
do you
Yeah,
see how beautifully what Sheela has said
yeah.
ties into our Devis and Devatas having different personalities? One liking the
Mm,
decoration aspect, one being more ascetically inclined, and
yeah,
how beautiful, how naturally diverse the tradition is, and
yeah.
how we can choose an Ishta Devata depending on what resonates with our personality. Just wanted to point
Exactly.
that out.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's very consistent, the theories, the practice, everything is consistent. It's for us to discover and appreciate it. It's really every conversation that we have makes me more and more appreciative of the depth and profundity of our traditions. It's simply amazing.
Truly.
Okay, Sheila, while you were growing up, what was a typical festival day like? How did you celebrate the occasion of Mahashivaratri?
All right. As a child, when I was, what I can remember is we wouldn't get to eat anything that's made with rice, or we wouldn't eat any cooked form of the rice form. Okay. And my parents used to fast as without having any grain. Okay. If we felt hungry, the food that we
Mm-hmm.
used to get would be fruits or anything that is made with wheat. And we would try
Okay.
our best to cooperate with our parents by not asking for any food because they are fasting themselves. So it wouldn't be right demanding for something. But then it was always a treat to have chapati because that is, I'm sure even now, so like my children, they like to eat chapati. It's not rice. Okay. And the whole day from morning till evening, they wouldn't eat anything. And again, they would have bath in the evening, and all of us would have bath. And then they would do the abhisheka at home by chanting Rudra or simple Om Namah Shivaya is what we could chant. And then once the puja is done in the evening around 6:30 or 7 o'clock, I'm sure they used to even check for the right time when they could do the puja. And then once that is done, followed by palahara is what it's called. Any upavasa, they say palahara. It's palahara. You can have fruits if you want to break your fast, or you can have a snack which is made of wheat. Normally, in our house, my mom used to always make something with wheat. That would be upma. That was the common thing that would be made. And then we used to get to eat dry fruits, along with which we could eat any fruit if we feel hungry after we break the fast. But there are some people who will not have anything at all. They may just have juice. Sometimes tender coconut is considered to be cooling, so they consume tender coconut. And there are certain temples, like there's a temple near our house where I live. There on Shivaratri, they have the tender coconut abhisheka, Yelaniru abhisheka is what they call it. So anybody can
Another
go.
coolant.
Yeah. So yeah. So they do they perform this on Shivaratri, and on that day, any temple that you go, a Shiva temple, they will serve you with prasada, which will either be dates or it will be some snack which is made of wheat, like upma is what they give in that temple also. So there are a lot of devotees who contribute, they volunteer to sponsor the prasada on that day. So it is from morning till the next day morning that they keep, the puja keeps happening. But this Yelaniru Abhisheka happens till the evening. Then there is another puja again. Then there is a different Alankara of Vibhuti that they do. And then it is followed by the bhajan and all that they do.
Yeah. So you stay up all night, or that was the practice. Maybe it's not so anymore, but people would stay up all night, right?
Yes.
And what would you do? I think you mentioned why we stay up, because we are also keeping vigil along with the Lord, so that he doesn't fall asleep and swallow that poison which could affect him. So I think that's why we stay awake. But what would you do staying awake?
So once you break the fast at home, when we used to break our fast, the next custom was to take us to the temple. So in those days, we had to walk a lot to go to a particular temple that my parents used to visit. So they used to be 2-3 Shiva temples that they used to take us to. So we used to walk after this, go visit the farthest temple would be the first place that we would visit. So on our way back, we would go to another temple, and then a temple that is much closer to where we used to stay then. Once we visit the temple, next thing that would happen is to keep us awake for some time, they used to play a movie. So it was a standard movie. I remember 2-3 years, it would be the same movie. It used to be Shiva Purana story where like Parvati is dreaming of being married to Lord Shiva. Like all of us know the story, right? So the Parvata Raja story, and this was a movie that used to be played there, and that would go on for probably till midnight, till 1 o'clock. We used to stay in the temple, and then we used to walk back home, and you will see people all around that community moving around. So it wouldn't be like it is night. So we would come back and we would sleep. I really don't remember if my parents used to stay awake, but when we get up, they are awake again. So in the morning. So that's how it used to be.
This also
Okay.
shows the importance of community, right? But for having a community, it would be much harder to motivate children to stay awake or to take part in these festivities. But having a
That is
community
true.
is makes it so easy.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
you're right, because there are plenty of families also who are taking advantage of you know big community celebrations in places like Sadhguru's Isha. Plus, I think there is Sri Ravi Shankar's Art of Living. They also have a whole night program for Shivaratri. So I think there are opportunities to do things as a community. And then, of course, there are the temples also, which always, I think, do full night programs on Shivaratri.
yeah,
Yeah, there are so many temples that have all-night programs. So, even the littlest ones can be taken to these programs. There are cultural events. And I have noticed the very little ones who come to see like a music performance or a dance performance done by the older children, and they get fascinated
Mm.
and they beg to, they ask their parents, can I also start learning? So, these
Yeah,
kinds of things facilitated when you start having them participate. In India, it is actually quite easy to find a local Shiva temple that has all night programs.
that's true.
Villages normally they follow this Jagarane ritual very devotedly. There are plenty of temples which will have singing. There'll be some people who will be telling stories, they'll be narrating stories. So they ensure that they are awake, and there'll be small children. They are the ones who will be the most energetic, because it is believed on this day they say that you can gain a lot of energy, especially for sadhaks who are looking forward to achieve something or to do some sadhana. They say that this is an ideal day to do your upavasa and your jagaran. So small children definitely enjoy the celebration, especially the jagaran, because it's something unusual. They let them stay awake the whole night.
So, speaking of all night activities and Jagarane, we can see how the performing arts play a major role in the life of a practicing Hindu. Shiva, in his form of Nataraja, the king of
Mm-hmm.
Natya dance, is just
Mm.
so relatable for kids, don't you think? It is just such an active, beautiful, aesthetic image, and that's one easy way for kids to connect this whole thing of performing arts and
That
Shivaratri,
is
and
true.
then performing in a festival, staying awake at night and performing in a festival.
Dancing the night away with some rules, and we cannot have any sort of dancing. But
That's true.
uh,
Terminology is so important. Coming back
yeah,
to terminology, which we touched in the very first or second podcast. So,
yeah.
dance is not simply dance for us, it is Natya.
Hmm.
Music is not just music, it is Sangeeta.
Sangeeta,
It's
correct.
practitioners of classical dance, the gurus, who make it a point to mention this. I remember
Hmm.
meeting one of the renowned gurus, and he had specifically said, what is dance? Don't use the term dance. It is Natya.
Yeah, I think that's something that we have to consciously do every day, shed a little bit of the English, start using our own words, then the associated meanings also will come to us, and I
Very
think
true.
we'll all be
And
better for that.
maybe we can also stop saying gods and goddesses and do devathas and devis.
Devis and devatas and
Okay,
devis.
I would like to add something to this Devi and Devata or Devis. When you're referring to a couple, they will always say Srimati and Shri. They will never say Shri and Srimati. Unlike the English, they'll say Mr. and Mrs. No.
Wow, that is something. That's a very, very interesting point that you brought up,
Yeah, even if
Sheila. That
you
is true.
see, yeah, when you see an invitation, a wedding invitation, it will always be
Mm,
Srimati and Shri. So the importance of a woman or the
mm,
respect that is given for a woman is shown from not now, from the ancient days. So they
that is
always
true.
gave a lot of respect for a woman in Indian culture everywhere.
Little things, no, that we have not actually paid attention to, but it makes a world of difference. You always write Srimati and Shri. You'll never write Shri and Srimati. It even
Correct.
sounds wrong, no?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's because we've grown up hearing it said Srimati and Shri, Devi and
Yeah.
Devata. So it just
Yeah.
flows so well. You
Yeah,
notice
but
that Shri itself means Lakshmi, right?
Correct.
Shri.
Correct. I was going to raise that too. Yeah. Good you raised that, Rekha. Yeah.
This word Mr. ever
Ah.
mean goddess. I mean, think of how preposterous that sounds.
Mr. can never have a feminine element in it, no?
Just like I think Eve was fashioned out of a rib of Adam.
Correct. Very, very, very interesting point, and things that, we generally tend to not notice. Okay, Sheila, as a Shiva Bhakta or a family of Shiva Bhaktas, how do you initiate a child into practice?
in our community, we have
Mm.
a custom that we follow. It's a part of our Lingayat community ritual that when a child is born, he or it can be a child, a female or a male child, we do a ritual called Lingadhara, which is normally done on the 11th day when the child is born. And
I
we
see.
call the Pandit of our community to come and perform this ritual where a child is tied a linga. In our house, like my daughter also got this linga dharana done when she was born, and she used to always ask, "How can?" As a child, you know how children they're very curious. They like to do puja. They like to be a part of every ritual that is done, and later on it fades off. But my daughter, just a couple of years ago, also she used to ask whenever she saw us do puja, she used to say, "When I want to do my linga puja." So
Mhm.
what we do is not just her, but even we as children, after a certain age, our parents used to make us sit. We can't wear this linga. We are supposed to wear it every day, but because
Mhm.
of our lifestyle again, and we move out, we go to different places. We are not allowed to wear this because there is a ritual that you need to follow every day. You have to do puja to the Shivalinga.
Mm.
So it so happened coming
Meaning
back
that
to
if you wear a linga, you have to do the puja every day. So if you are not
yes.
able to do it, then you should not even wear it. That's what you're saying, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
wouldn't say not even wear it, but you need to do justice, right? It's called
Yeah.
Atmalinga. It's close to your heart.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
almost like the God within you. You are worshipping the God in the form of linga, okay? The God
Mm.
within you. So you keep it
Mm.
close to your heart. So that's how you wear it also in Lingayat community. If you are following the wearing of linga, not
Mm.
everybody wears it, but when they do, the right way to wear it is to keep it close to your chest. And you have to perform the puja thrice a day, is what they say. Before,
Mhm.
when you get up in the morning, then before you, in the afternoon, and in the evening also.
Mm.
We used to get an opportunity to do the puja for this linga whenever we used to do Rudrabhisheka, is what they do for Shiva on
Mm.
Shivaratri day. So when we used to also get to do the puja, apply the basma and the ganda and all that. So we tried the same thing with my daughter when she wanted to do the puja. So we got her to hold her linga and we taught her how to do the puja. And she used to like to do it even after Shivaratri for some days. So since she used to go to school, what I used to give her option was she could do it on her holidays. So she would,
Mhm.
consciously ask for the Shivalinga to do the puja. So that is what we do over here. Here, what we do is normally on Shivaratri, as we keep chanting Om Namah Shivaya when we are reading the shloka or the Rudra, the different stotras that they read for Shiva, each house follows each way of doing puja. So
Mm.
we used to make her also, we make her sit with us and put the Bilva Patra on the Ishvara. Like all the lingas are kept in a plate after the Abhisheka is done. And then
Mhm.
we start chanting Om Namah Shivaya, and we get her also to put the Bilva Patra on the linga. So this is
Bilvapatra
one
is the
way.
bilva leaves of the bilva tree, no? Which is
Yeah, the
also
yes,
something that Shiva likes very much. right?
Yes. So
Okay.
it's called Bilva Patra or Bil Patre or Bale in Hindi.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we get her to be a part of the puja. So somewhere, after, even when they say, no, I don't believe in all this, slowly as they grow up, as the transformation happens, children will get drawn to it when it is inculcated in them as young children or as small children or even as a teenager. Children need to be told why this is done. So once you get a justifying explanation, you start believing in it.
Sheila, so if a child cannot, do the Ashtotram by himself or herself, they can chant Om Namah Shivaya 108 times, right? That is
Yes, that
also
is
a way of
also
worshipping the linga,
right,
isn't it?
right. That you can chant it 108 times. Good. You can't. You can still keep telling how many ever times you can chant. So there's nothing as that you have to count it for 108 times. Yeah, 108 times. Yes, but then if you can chant when you're doing the Shiv Puja that you do every day for how many ever times, good for you, because all of us are bound with time, right? We have a lot of time constraint. So
and this mantra is incidentally called the Shiva Panchakshari mantra, right?
correct. Yes.
So I think we have had a very, very enlightening, interesting, enjoyable conversation. And we have talked about more than just Shivaratri. So I think our listeners would, enjoy this podcast as much as we enjoyed putting it together. So with this, we come to the end of this episode. Thank you, Sheela. Thank you for joining us and sharing with us so many experiences. And thank you, Rekha. Thank you so much. And we will meet our listeners once again in a fortnight's time. It's going to be yet another festival, the festival of Holi, and we will be speaking to another guest about the festival of Holi. So until then, namaste, keep well.